Hey guys, it's Martyn Sibley here for the latest edition of the Martyn Sibley Show. And today I'm beaming out live to Los Angeles, I believe, Jason, right?
Yep.
So Jason Goldberg, who it's another one we were just talking about before we started chatting, this kind of democratization of the internet and how you can actually get to chat to people that 1 minute they're on stage rocking it at Mind Valley U, and then the next thing, Jason, as a particular example, is lifting my wheelchair down the step from the bar after too many cocktails.
You had too many cocktails, not me. You had too many cocktails.
That was me, just to clarify.
I had a couple.
I don't drink and drive. So yeah, it was just basically the plan was that me and Jason just wanted to have a chat today to really just chat through some of the amazing things that Jason's up to and just a chance to chew the fat about life and the universe. So I think that the first thing to kick off, Jason, was your book. I love that for those that are watching the YouTube version, I love the prison break in the background there. And I had a good, there we are. I had a good read of that after your talk at Mind Valley in Estonia. It'd be great just to kind of share a little bit with the listeners and the viewers how that book came about in your journey, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here, man. You're a fucking joy. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse, but I already did.
Yeah, you can fucking curse. It's fine.
Curse is okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, it's fine. Okay, good. Well, good. Then I'll just strategically work in an F-bomb every 3 or 4 minutes. No, but Martyn, seriously, the work you're doing is amazing. The fact that you were able to use the word democratization in the first 3 minutes of the interview is amazing. I love that. And yeah, just super excited to be here. It was a blast to hang out with you in Estonia, and just all the work you're doing, man. The people you're interviewing and the message you're getting out there and the advocacy is really what I look at it as. The advocacy of all people, not just people with disabilities, is really, really beautiful, man. So I really appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Yeah, and as far as the book, so the book came as a result. It actually says in the back of the book that it reads more like a diary of my own life and the stuff that I've had to go through, more than like a step-by-step self-help manual.
I think they're the best ones often, actually.
No, same with me. I mean, and that's really how, like, that style of writing the book in that way, where it's conversational and there's short chapters and they're just reflections of kind of my own life, and it's much less like finger wagging and saying this, you're doing it wrong, here's how you do it right because I'm the all-knowing being. It's more like I'm a total screw up, and here's what I've learned. So don't worry if you're not as masterful at being a screw up as I am. You can change your life faster than the 30 years it took me to change mine.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something there. Number one, it's truthful. It's truthful and it's authentic. But number two, I think it just makes it more relatable, and it makes it easier for people to digest it, because nobody wants to have somebody wagging their finger at them saying you suck, you're not doing it right, you're bad at life. Nobody wants that. We fight against that. So the book for me was a chance for me to write a book, honestly, truly, for myself, so that it's recounting a lot of the things that I went through to go from being, and the main distinction in the book is that in any given moment you can choose to be a prisoner of circumstance, a prisoner to your life, a prisoner to your surroundings, a prisoner to your thoughts, a prisoner to whatever, or that you can be a self-leader, which is much more purposeful. And that way you actually take a stand for the experience that you are having in life and the role that you are playing in creating that experience. A much more empowered, much more creative way to live. It takes almost no creativity to be a prisoner. It takes a lot of creativity to be a self-leader. So it's a creative way to live. It's an intentional, creative way to live. And so the book was really about me sharing the things that I've done in my own life, and the belief and behavior shifts that I've had to make in my own life, so that I could experience life as a self-leader more often than as a prisoner.
Yeah, and as you say, it's not like you're there every minute, all day long. It's something you're always working at, even now.
Always. I mean, just so this morning, so right before this call, I had my weekly call with my team, and there was one thing we're working on, and I became like a total prisoner, and I was just like, oh, this is going to be so hard, and like, how do we figure this out? And we don't have enough manpower, and we don't have the time. And I noticed myself being a prisoner. Like I noticed that I was, with every word, with every action, with every thought, I was creating exactly the thing that I didn't want to happen. Like as soon as I said, this thing is hard, this thing, how do we figure this out? I don't know how we're going to figure this out. As soon as I say this thing is hard, it has no choice but to show up as being hard and to find evidence of all the reasons why it's hard, versus like, well, what if this was easy? What if this wasn't that big of a deal? What if we could play with this instead of making it so significant? And so that's why I wrote this book, was to have some way to share with others, but even more importantly, to remind myself when I get into those prisoner moments that there is a different choice. There is a different way to show up in this moment if I choose to be awake enough to see it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And as you know, the kind of background with me having the disability and a lot of my audience having a disability, I think that there's an understandable result with oppression and with discrimination and with being, physically blocked out. If you think for someone with a wheelchair, there are a lot of places in the world you still can't get to. And so there's this kind of emancipation movement going on still for a lot of disabled people. That's real, that's a truism, but it's all very easy to end up feeling like a victim and like a prisoner. And I think that's what really resonated with me, is I know I went through those victim moments in my past about, oh, why me? Why am I in a chair? I wish I could just do this stuff. It's so hard. But then the minute my mindset turned to, well, actually, like, for example, now with my blog, I get invited to places to blog about their accessible tourism, all expenses paid. So if I wasn't in a wheelchair, I wouldn't get on that gig, So it's like the positives from those life experiences are really unique, and they're always there no matter what you go through. And I love that came through with Prison Break.
Yeah, dude, I love that. I really truly believe this. And, it's a challenge for me because I never want to, this is in general, not just with people with physical disabilities, but in general, is I never want to say that I know what it's like to live anybody else's life. I can't possibly.
Of course.
But I know what my own difficulties feel like.
Yeah.
And I know that what's possible for me, or has been possible for me, is that my disadvantages can actually become my differentiator. Yeah. Right? Whether that's personal, professional, whatever it is. So you're such a beautiful example of that, in seeing that, like, your disadvantage of having a physical disability is now your differentiator for these hotels and these destinations that want you to come and share the message of how accessible their place is. Like, that's a beautiful example of the power of creativity and the power of intentionally showing up to your life. You didn't just sit there like twiddling your thumbs watching TV and they came to you. You put yourself out intentionally into the world, and you did that consistently, and you did it with value. And as a result, these people that ask you to be a part of what it is that you're doing, that's something that you created from scratch.
Yeah, no, that's strategically, there's something I've always tried to balance. And I was going to call it a holy trinity, but I don't know if going into religious metaphors is just dangerous. But I think to have creativity, to serve people, which we've talked a lot about with the course as well, we'll come on to in a minute. But I think when you're making a difference in the world and you're serving, but also the entrepreneur on the business side, when you can try and get those three to match up, that's when the magic happens. And it's not easy, and it takes a lot of trial and error. But I think when you're in that sweet spot, for me, that's when a lot of good stuff happens. And you're like this, a couple of days ago, I told you that I was trying to find accommodation in Croatia for the next Mind Valley U. And again, we'll come back to Mind Valley U in a second too. But we were struggling like mad to get anywhere that was wheelchair accessible. And also there was the budget constraint, there's all these different factors. It's been going on for weeks now, again, a little bit stressed. So I send this email to this place that looks super adapted and accessible. And it's almost like whatever the price is, we just need to find somewhere now. And I didn't mention any of my work. I just said about wheelchair access and about the dates we're coming. And the person replied and said that they would like, if I do some promotion and consultancy, they'll do it free for the 2 weeks we're there. And I wasn't even like, there are times I'm pitching, like when we, as a coach as well, we were pitching stuff. But this was like just trying to get a place to live and stay for Croatia. But they clicked on my link on my signature. So it was like, wow, when you even least expect it. And when the chips were a bit down as well, I love it when those kind of things come out of the woodwork.
Dude, that's amazing. I love that. It's just, I love when, like, this is all creative endeavors, man. I'm obsessed with creativity because, like, it's, I actually have a quote that I have, and I actually have shirts made up that say this as well, that say creativity is greater than circumstance.
Yeah,
like there's
absolutely.
No circumstance that a creative mind or creative minds that come together can't solve. It just doesn't exist.
100%. So one thing about the book was just to bring out the baby assassin. I friggin' love the baby assassin. Could you explain that to everyone watching?
Yeah, sure. So funny. Somebody on Instagram stories the other day was at at a pottery class or like a clay class of some sort, and they actually made a baby assassin out of clay, which was
How cool is that?
yeah, it was awesome. I'll have to see if I have the picture somewhere. But yeah, the concept of the baby assassin, the chapter in the book that Martyn's referencing is called "Quieting the Baby Assassin," and it's a visual cue that anytime we have a thought come into our head that says you're not good enough, you suck, who are you to be doing this? You need to just give up. You'll never be able to do this. You'll never be good enough. Whatever that, you'll never be blank enough. Whatever that is, that instead of that being a real thing or a real problem we need to overcome, one of the things that is core to the way I try to live my life as much as possible and core to the work that I do is getting people to start recognizing that they can allow their thoughts to be without being a nuisance, right? There's a difference. Like just because they're there doesn't mean they have to be a nuisance. And so I wanted to say, how can I personify that in a way that makes it fun and makes it simple and makes it as non-threatening as possible? And so the image that came to my mind one day, I think it was during a meditation that this image came to my mind, is that—
Not cocktails, no.
What was it?
Not cocktails, no.
Well, meditation, cocktails, it's all the same thing. It's like Vision has the 6 phase cocktails. It's fine. Right? The vodka followed by a whiskey, followed by a sangria. It's a great thing. Everybody should try it. So I had this image pop in my head of like, what if this feeling, and we know what this feeling feels like. It feels debilitating. It feels disempowering. It feels disheartening. It feels like you want to give up. To the extreme, it can make you feel like you don't want to be on the earth anymore. I mean, there's like some real deep shit that our thoughts can trick us into believing. And so what if instead of it being this like heavy thought we have to overcome, or we have to do this like crazy deep work, what if all the little things we were feeling in our head was a little teeny baby that was dressed up in like a little ninja gi, and it was like punching and kicking us inside of our head from the inside, right? And we know that, right? We just know. We're like, what is this? Why do I feel this way? Oh, there's a little baby assassin in there that's like kicking and punching and chopping and doing all these things, right? So if I know it's just this little baby assassin, I have this visualization where I can grab the little baby assassin by the back of its little gi, its little ninja outfit, and I can take it out and I can like sit it down in front of me. And all of a sudden I see that it's just not that serious. It's like, oh, look at this sweet little ninja baby that just doesn't know any better. It's kicking and punching and doing all these things because that's what it thinks it's supposed to be doing. But I don't have to take its karate seriously. Yeah. Right? Like I don't have to do anything about it. When I take that baby out and I see how cute it is and I can put it in its little bassinet and I can rock it to sleep and then everything's fine. So the reason that we have this visualization, or that I have this visualization that I try to use myself, is to lessen the significance that I put on the thoughts that are in my head.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think you can see that on the sort of general theory of personal development and psychology, some of the sort of theories that we all read about every day. But what's phenomenal is it's just fun, and nobody forgets it. And I think that really is your thing, Jason, because I think we all want to do better. We all have struggles, and we all can get a bit serious. And I'm sure you have those days, where things are a bit tougher and a bit more serious. But with your work and the way you serve people, it's to bring that joy and that fun. And so we're moving on to Mind Valley University. I think quite a lot of people that follow me are going to have heard of this now, because I did Barcelona and Tallinn, and I had Ajit on the last episode as well. So they're definitely becoming more familiar with the vortex that is Mind Valley. Even if they don't want to know about it, they are hearing about it. But I mean, you are a speaker as well as an author, so it'd be great to hear a bit more about your speaking endeavors, but how you ended up involved with the Mind Valley Vortex.
Yeah. Dude, Mind Valley is just an incredible organization. For those of you who don't know, I mean, they're an amazing publishing company of personal growth products and online courses and these live events that Martyn and I go to, like Mind Valley Mind Valley University, which now has a different name, right? Mind Valley Global City Campus or something like that.
Yeah, with the 6 phase pub crawl and all that kind of stuff.
the 6 phase methamphetamines. But they do really great work, and they publish some of the greatest authors out there, and they put on these awesome events. And I've been a part of their world now since 2014.
Oh, is
So
it that long you've been involved? Wow.
yeah. It was a long time ago. So back in 2014, this is before Ajit had ever coached or anything else. They were creating a product that they were trying to create kind of like a Netflix of personal growth mainly for coaches. And so they had this call for people that had had on-camera experience and that were coaches, and I had both. So I applied, and it was really funny because at the time, back in 2014, the person who was the director of like content development for that program had gotten my email and looked at my links and messaged me and said, hey, I'd like to have a Skype call and see if there's a fit here. And that person was Mia Konen, Mia Lux. Who now is, does her own thing, and she and I co-host A-Fest together. But back then she was a Mind Valley employee. And so she and I had our first Skype call and we hit it off. And so they flew me out to Malibu, California. I was living on the East Coast at the time. I wasn't living in LA yet. They flew me out to Malibu, California. We did a day of shooting, which was awesome. And then a few months later, Ajit was starting EverCoach, and Ajit is co-founder of Mind Valley Teach, and he's the CEO of this company called EverCoach. And he was starting EverCoach as a training and development arm of Mind Valley for coaches. Mm-hmm. And he had asked around the office and said, hey, who should we bring on? And they said, hey, we just filmed with this guy, Jason Goldberg, a few months ago. He was awesome. Contact him. And so he contacted me and we talked and we co-developed this program that's been around now since summer of 2015 called Master Circle. It's a monthly kind of membership thing that we do through Mind Valley. Mm-hmm. And so we did that. And then I went to my first A-Fest which is Awesomeness Fest. Well, it was called Awesomeness Fest. Now it's called A-Fest. I went to my first A-Fest in 2015 in Costa Rica and actually spoke there and did a breakout session there. And then a couple years later, Vishen asked me if I would be open to hosting A-Fest. And I said, yeah, that'd be great. So now I co-host A-Fest with Mia and speak on their stages, like at Mind Valley U, typically speaking around things like this, like self-leadership, or what I normally speak about more is how to build a competition-proof business. So for people who are service-based entrepreneurs and coaches and things like that, how to really create a business that's centered on your own self-expression, your own authenticity, and how you can best serve the world in that way. So that's kind of how that whole Mind Valley Vortex thing has happened.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And obviously we touched upon the way you use humor and fun. Something else that grabbed me and the other 1,000 people in Tallinn was, and obviously the other A-Fest, etc., is that you do a lot with music as well, right?
Yep, that's true.
A hip-hop boy at heart, yeah?
That's what, dude, hip-hop is my heart, man. Do I have anything hip-hop related around me? I don't have anything hip-hop. Oh, I do have some. It says good vibes only. That's hip-hop-ish.
Yeah.
That's
good.
Yeah, the rappers have taken over good vibes only. It's not theirs, but they've taken it over. I was a rapper at one point, so I love to like integrate hip-hop and fun. And, here's the thing, man, is like, just like we were talking about a few minutes ago, my whole job on this planet is something that because I don't have a better way to say it, I'm going to steal it from Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey talks about this in his, I don't know if you've ever seen his commencement speech that he did at the Maharishi School of Management. Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
So good. Such a great, there's little clips of it that Goldcast put out that was really good too, just like little 3 or 4 minute clips of the longer thing. But he talks about it in that, and he also talks about it, first time I heard him say it was actually in the documentary that he did about the Man on the Moon movie that he did, the Andy Kaufman story. Yeah. There's a Netflix special called Jim and Andy. I don't know if you ever saw that. It's the behind the scenes kind of documentary about the movie.
No, I haven't seen that. I only saw the movie.
So good. So watch Jim and Andy on Netflix. Really, really good. But he says something in it that really moved me a lot, moved me to tears when I first heard him say it, is that he realized that with his comedy, what he was really doing, his real purpose on this earth was to free people from concern, right? Free people from concern. He even says, he dubs it the church of FFC, freedom from concern. And the reason it teared me up when I heard that is because I realized that no matter what it is that I talk about, whether it's self-leadership or it's around building your business or it's around social media or it's around whatever, my job really more than anything is to lower people's resistance and free them from concern so that they can create what it is they want to create in the world, whether it is their coaching business or it's something around activism and a cause they love, or it's around, being a good spouse or a good parent, whatever it is. We have so much heaviness and so much seriousness that we put on ourselves on a daily basis. And I do the same thing. Like I am uniquely qualified to teach being more playful and more joyful because I constantly struggle with being too serious. This is why it's my work in the world, right? Yeah. And that's what I realized is like, if I can bring some comedy or some hip hop or some whatever into my speaking or into my teaching or into my book, and that helps people be a little lighter, a little more freed from concern, then whatever I teach them after that is really going to sink in at a much deeper level. So if I want to be more effective at making a dent in some of the challenges I think we go through as a human in the human experience, then I want to be as effective as possible. And I have seen for myself that the more I bring levity into my teaching, the more people tend to get from the teaching.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the comedy bit and the hip hop bit are two specific things that I know I'm very into and about. So I think when I saw your talk, that specifically resonated. But you hit the nail on the head. It was more the freedom from concern. So even if I wasn't so bothered about hip hop or whatever, but it was just that lightness. And I mean, we'll sort of move into the course that I did with you at the end of last year, having obviously met in Tallinn as well. That I did a course when I've been blogging. It'll be 10 years in August. Jesus Christ, that's a long time actually. I didn't realize it was that long. So 10 years blogging, and quite soon after, I'd made a couple of courses, and at that point, there was a freedom from concern. I had a day job. I was doing it purely as a hobby and a passion. And then when I left my job to pursue this as a full-time social enterprise, the concern started to get more and more and more. And so I've still got a lot of courses in me, but all of those sort of excuses and doubts were weighing so heavy. And so, yeah, when you then launched through EverCoach, you're creating transformations. And I'd sort of like circled around through similar courses, but as you said about the book, it was very 5 steps for this, and kind of tie, almost like the ties were done up and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right that when you give people permission to be themselves, or when you give them permission to give themselves permission for everything they want to do, then like it's such a powerful thing. And so yeah, I mean, from your perspective, how did you end up doing the course? Was that something in the pipeline with EverCoach for a while?
It wasn't for a while. So Ajit and I also were like best friends. So we hang out all the time, and so we'll strategize about business stuff, whether it's my business or his business or whatever else. And he has EverCoach, and he has some other businesses as well. And so we were talking about, well, how can we do more going forward together besides Master Circle? And when I looked at what I had a lot of success with, I had a signature course that I had developed and launched back in 2017 for the first time called Playful Prosperity, which was like kind of my signature 8-week personal growth course. And it was about, being prosperous in your inner and outer world, but from a more playful place, not so serious, right? That's kind of the whole vein of my work. And I kind of like stumbled through that and just kind of intuitively picked up certain things, and then running it a second time got even more clear on what worked and what didn't, and how to really get people engaged, and how to help people have the best possible choice, or best possible expectation of transformation, of how to monetize that, of how to monetize it beyond that. And so when Ajit and I were sitting there talking about it, I said, this is something I feel really excited to teach, because I feel like there are so many courses out there on how to create courses, but they are very cookie cutter. I was actually, funny enough, I just met with, I had a team meeting last week with one of my team members, and we spent like 3 or 4 hours looking at, we have this other core program that we do, like a business accelerator for coaches. And we're always looking at how to make it better, right? So we're looking at like version 2 of it right now, and kind of innovating and making it even better. And we were looking, and we were like, both of us got so upset. We're like, we're so effing sick of courses that like ask you these generic ass questions, and then supposedly once you have the answer to a generic ass question, everything just works out. But like, there's no real depth. There's no real like looking for clarity. There's no real support. There's no real like gamification of it. It's just not fun to do it. Yeah. And so either people don't finish the courses when they start going through them, or they finish the course work, but they don't actually implement. And for me, that's a big sign of success or failure in all of my courses, is do people finish the course, but more importantly, like, do they actually implement? And if people are not implementing, then I take that as personal responsibility and I shouldn't take personal responsibility, but I take some personal responsibility that maybe there's something I could be doing to facilitate that better. So long story short, I figured out what some of those things were that I really think help people to complete courses. Typically online courses have a completion rate of about 5 to 8%, which is pretty freaking low.
Really low, isn't it? And for the price of some of them as well, right?
I mean, there are certain courses out there. I know for a fact there's a certain course out there that I know is a couple grand. And I know a lot of people that have taken it and they never finish it. And I'm just like, oh my God, what a waste. Like, you spent all that time and money and energy and you didn't finish it, and it's not the person's fault and it's not the course creator's fault, but there's something missing in that bridge so that people really want to finish the course. And a lot of that is intimacy. A lot of that is like, creating an experience and being there with people through the process. And I understand that's not everybody's business model, but for me, I realize the stuff that I put out that has the most success is when I flood people with support. So they really have a real fighting chance to win. And that's what I was trying to impart on people in that course when they're building their own course.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for the people a few people are going to be following, that I've been doing this whole World Changes brand since about October, November, but it really accelerated because of that course with you. And I think it partly was that I took away the concern, as we talked about a few minutes ago. But I also remember you said that, to try and create a course and then just sit back on the beach while the money rolls in. We all kind of have that moment where we think that would be good. But I know that about 5 years ago, Kasia and I, with our businesses running online, we actually did manage to live on the Spanish coast for 3 months in this tiny village where no one really would speak to us because we were outsiders. And it turned out not to be the paradise that I dreamt up when I was trying to leave my job, because, we need purpose, we need community, etc., etc. But yeah, the whole thing in the end, though, was that by actually doing World Changes, I also took away about, you said, flooding people with love and support. And so since I've got the Facebook group and I go live, and then I offered that I would do these live teaching sessions over 6 weeks, 14, as you know all this anyway, but for people watching, it's 14 people signed up. And it was just such a change from years of inertia in that area for all the reasons we've discussed. So I think absolutely, I know as one of your students, that it works, man. It definitely works.
Well, but it works because you worked it, right? You implemented it. You didn't sit there hoping it was going to do it on its own. You put the work. How many people did you say signed up?
14.
Well, and last time you told me it was 10.
Yeah, I got people are just still, even though I've done the first lesson, people are still wanting to join. So no, it's been phenomenal.
That is amazing, man. Congratulations. Yeah. That's huge.
And then also there was the tools as well. There definitely was, okay, so I want to drown people with love and support, fine. But in seeing how you ran your courses and your world, I kind of saw how you could actually drown people in love without getting a restraining order or something like that.
I like getting a restraining order. That's how I know it's really working. Restraining orders, I'm firing somebody.
Winning.
No, I love that though. And that's actually, it's funny, man. That's actually one of the conversations we were having this morning. That is actually our, and it's funny you mentioned living on the beach or whatever, passive income, all this crap that we're being sold by a lot of people nowadays. I don't truly believe there's any such thing as passive income. There is income that comes in with an inequality with how much work you put in to get it. That's great. Right? That's leverage, right? That's leveraged income. But passive income, where you never do anything and money just shows up. First of all, that would be a boring way to live. Second of all, I don't think it really exists. But anyways, so there's always a trade-off with everything. So it's like every time we have a new level of growth in my business, there's always a new trade-off. And it's funny because the biggest challenge we have now, most people will say in their business, it's money. Like the biggest challenge is like making more money, getting enough leads, blah, blah, blah. And that's always a challenge. You want to get to the next level of revenue or you want to get more leads, that's fine. But there are systems to do that, right? My biggest challenge in the business is finding more people that can be coaches in our program, like internal coaches that coach other people. Because I won't just put, like in my team this morning, I love them to death, but they were like, what about this person? I'm like, you know what? I love that person, but I just don't think they would give the level of support to our students that I'm like obsessed with them getting. So our biggest challenge in scaling is not scaling money-wise and not scaling capacity-wise as far as like getting people in the program and getting them to sign up. That's always a challenge, and that's just part of sales and business. My biggest concern is how do we make sure that the experience these people get is like off the charts, client astonishment, as we call it. And so I think that's indicative of, I think, the businesses that are doing the most impactful work in the world and the ones that I think will stick around the longest are the ones that are obsessed with their customer or their client experience, not obsessed with growing it to some huge level of income.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I mean, the two brands that you're aware of, World Changes and Disability Horizon. So I've got once I've taught these modules, it will be a course on Teachable to continue in a more leveraged way. And then on Disability Horizons, I'm like hosting it by interviewing disabled experts, and people are going to sign up on Teachable for a subscription. So we've got these two products that we didn't really have a few months ago. And I was chatting to Toma the other day, looking at some of that stuff you just said about, so how do we get leads? How do we grow? Blah, blah, blah. And exactly what I took out of the chat with Toma is what you've just said, apart from that cats on T-shirts are awesome. For anyone wondering what we're talking about, Toma helped to run the community on Jason's course, and we had this whole like cat competition with T-shirts and everything. But it was more about to deliver customer satisfaction. And I coincidentally have been reading the founder of Zappos book, Delivering Happiness, Tony Shea, and they looked at customer service as a marketing expenditure, because in the end things just blew up for them by just making people happy. And they had like the call center people and all kind of funky stuff going on, because they wanted the team and the customers to be happy. And I think that's like a bit of a light bulb moment for people in this modern age. If we get that, the world gets better for everyone. But as the entrepreneur, you're going to be more successful too.
It's so true. And it's part of, I always say like my business plan is to leave everybody I meet with at least 5% more joy than I found them. Right? That's my business plan. And then my business model or business strategy is to really give a shit about the work that I do and the people I do it with. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. That's it. If we nail those two things, for me at least, if we nail those two things, we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So starting to wrap things up, Jason, I know you're a busy dude and you got to hit the beach and lie on the beach while the money pours in.
45 degrees and it's probably going to rain today. Not exactly a beach day here.
That's the LA you don't hear about. And it was similar with Spain. I had this dream to live in Spain because of the sun and it's better than English weather and everything. And then I got a placement with the European Union, which that's a whole other topic now, obviously. And I ended up in the northwest of Spain in a region called Asturias from January to like April, and it was so freaking cold and it rained the whole time, so it took a bit longer till I got my sunny Spanish dream. But yeah, which we are sold so many of these things from marketing, man. It's crazy.
When we were in Tallinn, before Tallinn, I was in Europe for 2 months because we had A-Fest and then we had Mind Valley U, and I just stayed, traveled around in between. And I remember like, yeah, this is so great. I'm going to travel around and I'm going to run my business. It was the first time I had been away from my home base for that long, for 2 months straight. And I remember there was one day, man, where I had a group coaching call for my accelerator for my coaches. And I was in Paros, Greece. And I literally went around the entire little town there for 3 hours trying to find reliable internet, literally running around with my laptop, going to different hotel lobbies and seeing if I can get it. I finally had to pay €100 for a hotel room just so I could do this 2-hour conference call. And I felt like a prostitute. Like I just need it for 2 hours. I don't need it for a whole night. And, so I had to pay €100 for the whole night. And I remember getting on the call that evening with them and just saying, this whole laptop lifestyle, passive income, it's bullshit. Let me tell you about the last 3 hours of my day trying to find reliable internet. So it's just so funny to see how that kind of digital nomad stuff works.
Yeah, and I think that to share those stories, obviously we are on this podcast, but even with like blogs and Instagram and stuff, there's an honesty, but then there is that, it's always a balance, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, people are coming because they want to get the advice and support on what they're struggling with, not the fact that you or I are going around with a bit of bad weather or a bit of bad internet. But I think overall it's those stories and that realness that people are connecting with. So, but I was just going to finish up with saying, like, look into the future, man. What have you got? Any sort of plans and aims personally, travel, creatively, serving, all the rest of it?
Oh yeah, I mean the serving is always core, man. This is funny. This is a year where things are going really well in business, and we have the accelerator is kind of our main thing that we're doing with people. And I want to find a way to also run Playful Prosperity again. It's a little bit of a challenge because we're trying to scale up certain things, and it requires more bandwidth and more staff and more everything else. And we want to make sure we don't lose quality and we don't lose connection with our people by doing that. But for me, I know that this year is, I won't say just this year, but this year and the next year, there's really something that I'm being called to do on an even bigger scale that's even more in the entertainment and transformation space.
Mm.
So I have some ideas for what that's going to look like, but that's my big edgy thing. Like that's super edgy and super scary and have no idea how to monetize it. Don't really care about monetizing it. Like I'll keep my core business, but there's just something inside my soul that's saying there's a bigger platform for you to be on and a more universal message for you to share, which a lot of the same messages I share with coaches, but it's just not sharing it in the context of coaching and sharing it in the context of just life and bringing more of this humor and this entertainment into the personal growth world. So I definitely say watch out for that. We have some really cool ideas. So if we can make that stuff happen, or when we make that stuff happen, it's going to be pretty awesome.
And where can people find you to follow your antics?
Yeah, so best places to find me are Facebook and Instagram. That's kind of where I hang out all the time. So the Jason Goldberg, THE, the Jason Goldberg, both on Facebook and on Instagram. And I share a bunch of really fun stuff there. And then for your listeners as well, I'm going to set up a special link so they can get a free copy of Prison Break. So digital copy, audio copy, or if they're in the States, I'll send them a paperback copy. But otherwise, no matter where you are in the world, audio and digital copy. So I'll send you that. You can share it with your listeners.
Awesome. Thank you. That's very kind of you, mate. Well, cheers for today. Looking forward to seeing you in the summer again for Moin Value Croatia or whatever the latest tagline for MVU is.
Right. Can't wait, dude. It's going to be amazing. 6-phase cocktails on me.
Mate, I'm going to need to practice driving drunk, aren't I? This is my new goal now. I need to coach myself to not crash with 6 cocktails.
I will support you, brother. I will support you.
Take care, brother.
Much love, man. See you.
Bye-bye.